Good evening, dandies. Welcome to Undetermined, the podcast.
Awesome. Welcome to Undetermined the podcast, everybody. We are privileged and honored to be here with Manuel and Eugene from their new project, Mangene. Welcome. The record, we had a little bit of a time zone mix up today, so that was cool. It gave me another hour to re-listen to the record again. So I did that.
Time well spent.
And I did that last night before I went to bed too. Man, I really dig this record. It's amazing. It's right up my alley, too, especially.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it's when we recorded it and created it, and then heard it, and I still haven't heard what you've heard, the finished copy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't believe I own a copy yet. So, but I remember being soft on it, and then Manuel sent me some MP3s, and I listened to it. I was like, my God, this is actually fucking really, really good. It's easy to say that about something that you're on. But if it wasn't really, really good, I wouldn't say that. There are plenty. You don't hear me talk about plenty of other stuff I've done. I'm not always talking about it, but this was really solid. I enjoyed hearing it, and more importantly for me, when I tried to compare it to what else was out there, I couldn't. There were no apt comparisons for me. So either my depth of knowledge of music is really shallow, or it really is somewhat, sui generis, so unique.
No. So. John and I were telling each other, it was just like, I don't know exactly where to place it. And that's part of what, makes it fun.
Yeah, exactly. And, it's to me, it's a really cool, just soundscape, and it's got it's definitely got a tone feeling that brings it all together, but the songs are so different. I think there is a Mangene sound. You can say that off the first record. So be proud of that. But yeah, I really liked a lot of the synth influences. I'm a sucker for synths anyway. And the layering and everything, and it's just incredible.
So
and it's a way.
I would ask you a question. If you were gonna if you were gonna go to a show to see, and I like the way the Germans pronounce it. We talked to some German interviewer, and he called it Mangene. I never thought of pronouncing it that way. So if you're going to go to a show with Mangene, who would you expect to see on the bill as well? I mean, what would make sense to you?
As far as just like visually and like appealingly or anything?
I mean, paper or something online. It's like Mangene's playing, and they're playing with, and you go, oh yeah.
Oh man. Front 242. I don't know. Still together, it'd be great. Especially if you're over there, probably be easier to get them.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I could see that. Absolutely.
I could hear like maybe a little Mars Volta-ish stuff with that, or
there's some crazy stuff going on too. That's and I mean, Cynthian Doomy, Omar Doom. Don't know if you're familiar with him. He was actually in I think I've got his record right here. Just a second. Yeah, it's got him on the cover. So he was in Inglourious Bastards, the Quentin Tarantino movie.
Yeah.
And he's the guy who, the third best Italian speaker. Remember the guy who didn't speak Italian? Right?
Oh, that guy.
Yeah, that guy. But I
had no idea he made music.
Yeah, I didn't either. I kind of stumbled across it and got a hold of him. But it's really this kind of dark, synthy, ambient, a little gothy, but it's still, it hits hard. It drives hard.
Okay.
So yeah, check out Omar, and he's a really cool guy.
All right, good.
Yeah.
Try to get some shows with them. That's the purpose. Yeah.
Anyway. Straight Razor is the band.
Okay, cool.
Big Sur, maybe some of their more synthy stuff.
Mm-hmm. I'm taking notes.
Right.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of bands that would be active right now too. I'll have to think on it.
Pixel Grip.
There's lots of, and Conan Neutron will know. Everybody.
Okay.
We caught you. Speaking of Conan, with Oxbow at Caterwall.
Caterwall, yeah, that was a great show, man.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
As shows go, that was fun. Given that there was time for setup, no time for sound check.
There was some technical difficulty. Yeah, some challenges.
Yeah. We got kind of a group text like, can somebody pick up Oxbow at the airport? We're like, shit, well, we saw that too late. I would have done it. I would have done it. But yeah, it was still a good set and a good show. That it was so great to get back to. That was the first kind of festival-y thing, that I've been to ever since the pandemic and stuff. So it was great. Been to a lot of shows since then, though.
And you don't have COVID.
No, I don't.
No. Oh, knock on wood. I'm still like a COVID virgin.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Me too. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Weird.
Yeah, I've had it once, but I've got bad immunity. I really do.
Yeah.
I mean, just look at this skin and hair, and one of the weakest gene pools in the world for disease. Yeah.
All right. So Mangene.
Mangene.
I have to learn this because I'm one of these Swiss, though I live in Germany, who doesn't know how to pronounce it. So,
well,
but you practice. That German guy was pronouncing it Mangene. I was like, it took me like 5 minutes to figure out he was talking about us. I was like, what are you talking about? Mangene. Oh, okay.
It took me a minute too, because I was like, the only Mangene I've known was like a hockey player or something.
Oh,
back in the early 80s, I think there was a hockey player with the name Mangene, and I thought it was like French. But then I saw both of your names on the screen,
and then
like,
okay.
Once I had the visual, I could see the mashup.
Portmanteau, yeah,
the portmanteau.
So would you be?
I'm glad you
Eugene.
I'm glad you listened to it. That's cool. Well, there's a whole confusion about whether I'm Eugene or Eugene. So I guess that could translate to Mangene or Mangene. So
yeah,
right. As long as you're listening to the music, I'm totally happy with that. So
yeah.
Of course, it gets more confusing once you're trying to pronounce it rightly. So
yeah,
I mean, I used to which recently also came out this track with Coast from Birmingham. And they gave me just the text, and the more you read it, the more difficult it gets to actually know how to speak it, and it also gets more confusing about what it means.
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. English is a terrible language for that.
But this, it's a brain stumble. It's a weird thing. Like I'll be driving along. Live in California now, and I have plenty of moments to drive along and think about this, and then I'll be like, what if I forget how to drive? And then there's a down spiral as you're driving along. You go, oh my God, I'm going to crash. I'm going to crash. I'm going to crash. So if ever you've heard I've been in a car crash, you know exactly that's what was happening. I freaked myself sufficiently in order to crash.
Mental note: do not accept a ride from Eugene.
You may forget to drive it. How to drive it anyway.
From Annie Hall. I share this with you because you're an artist and I know you'll understand.
So what brought you two together? Like, what's your origin story?
Yeah, there's got to be a seed to this project.
Oh, that's a very long story. Well, we met originally probably in 1994 on a fax machine. I assume that was when I first heard of Eugene, and we've been talking about touring with Oxbow in Europe. So their record company, they had a new record company in Germany, and they asked me if I want to book Oxbow for a European tour. And so we got in touch, and of course it ended with a huge, one piece of fax with a big yes across it when I asked Eugene, should we really do it? And then he added, we will change your life. And that's exactly what happened.
Wow.
I don't know if he knew this. Couldn't probably, but that's what happened. So we ended up being on tour for years and years with Oxbow, and then with other projects too. And at some point, we've been talking about doing something else that's not guitar-based, At least not in the center. And we've been discussing some stuff like DJ Oxbow, and then we've been discussing some spoken word stuff, which we actually did. We performed in mid 2000s as the Smoking Word, with Eugene doing spoken word and me adding some stuff. And then we kind of decided to do it for real and produce some music which is different. Or, I mean, from my point of view, I really thought that seeing Eugene only in kind of noise rock context is kind of a waste of talent. I mean, he's great in this, and I love all these projects that I've heard, and that's many. But there's much more about him and about his singing and about his lyrics and everything, his personality. So I thought there's a lot to do there.
I think sometimes I can understand, I think, what you're getting at. Sometimes when you're more, it's easier to recognize or notice like a genre sometimes, or like a loud, this is loud, but maybe the noise takes away from, there's poetry in there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and also, I mean, in a weird way, Manuel was probably one of the first, probably the first person who actually made me feel musically old, and by which I mean in the '80s, I'd pick up a magazine or news, whatever media there was that was focused on music, and I knew 90% of what they were talking about. 90% of the band knew, had heard, had played with, and 10% was new, and I felt comfortable with that. And then I think, yeah, somewhere in the mid '90s, when after we start working with Manuel, he had a magazine at his place, and I'm looking through, and the numbers had flipped, and I'd gotten panicked because I go, "This is how people get old," you know. I'm for one, this is my avocation. I'm involved in this, and now suddenly 90% of these acts, Aphex Twin. What the fuck do I know about it? I've never heard this stuff. Never heard it. Don't know who likes it. How did they find it? It was a complete mystery to me. And a friend of mine ended up being the editor in chief. He used to work for me, and then he went to be editor in chief of Herb magazine. I don't know if you remember it. ERB, and he started sending me just like care packages with music in it, and I started to discover all of this vast universe of stuff that I thought my voice would work well in. So when Manuel said, "Hey, we should do whatever Manuel said we should do," I can't remember of any occasion in which I said, "No, I'm not going to do that." I was, it's a thousand ways to say yes, and I said yes to each of them because it's necessary. It's like if you want to be involved in music or musical art, you can't be. I don't want to be. I don't want to be one of those guys who was like in a ska band in 1982, and is in a ska band in 2022. I just
right.
I got to stay. It's got to be interesting, and that was one word that when I would ask Manuel about certain types of music, I said, "Is it good or is it bad?" And he would never. He would always default to, if he really liked it, he would always default to, "Well, it's interesting," and that became kind of my North Star. It's got to be
comfortable gets boring.
Yeah, there must be some quality that kind of emotionally touches you in a way. I think that's the main important point, editor. And then, of course, what Eugene just said is that you have to take yourself seriously as a musician. I mean, before that, maybe Eugene would be this singer in a weird band or punk rock guy, whatever. But taking yourself serious as a musician means that you're actually doing music, no matter what kind of music it is, but understanding music in a more general way. And this means there's no limitations in genres or such thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And a couple tracks made me think of Throbbing Gristle a little bit too.
Right.
With that,
Hardcore
that kind of spirit.
was a door that I entered through. Right. But pretty soon, I mean, I'm thinking about this a lot because Ciccarelli just remixed Whipping Boy's second record, Muru Muru, and we found a label to release it, and I could understand completely the chagrin that all the hardcore listeners felt when we did a hardcore record and then Muru Muru. but largely I stand by that record. Very like fuck you, like that hardcore is the
Yeah.
I got in, but I'm not going to keep doing that for the rest of my life. And so Muru Muru, I thought didn't get a fair shake in 1983. I'm glad we found somebody to re-release it. And yeah, it's musical art and it's expression, and like Manuel says, it's something that has an emotional impact. Um, it's totally justifies its existence. It doesn't have to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? That's
Right. Yeah. Yep. And those, yeah, and the 3 chord progressions and stuff get a little old, after a while, just hearing the repetitiveness in some of it. I mean, there's a lot of punk rock and hardcore that stands out, from band to band. Absolutely.
I still
But
listen to it.
then,
I listen to it on the
oh,
way here
yeah.
to it, but
Mhm.
don't want
Yeah.
to
Yeah, and
make
of
Yeah.
course, there's more. There's a lot more to it than just the 3 chord progression. I mean, the
Right.
way it is performed, there's so much different in how you can perform a 3 chord progression, and I
Right.
think
Yeah, yeah, in a lot of ways, and you can do it uniquely, and like we say, genuinely. That's one of the biggest things too that you hear in this record. It's sincere. You can feel it, and you hear that in the vocals, you hear that in the music, and you feel it in the tightness of the music. Uh, Another thing I've got to say too, Manuel, and I was talking mad about this earlier. Um, on Hey, I guess we can mention the name of the tracks before the album drops. Is that okay?
yeah,
Okay. All right. Sure. I don't know.
yeah,
Some
yeah.
some things are top secret. But like in Hey Bossa Nova, it's when I was messing around with synths as a kid, the Bossa Nova switch was the it was kind of the Bossa No Thank You. I just skipped that one because I didn't think I could make it go hard, and I didn't think I could make it impactful because it's so kind of melodic, of a beat. It's up there, but man, you did it. Heads off to you. I don't know how that, but yeah, but the song goes amazingly hard. It's really good. Yeah, but yeah, I quid pro quo. So you're asking us about bands. Who have you been listening to lately? What's turning you on?
Or I'm kind of interested in like what would like maybe your average fan or listener be surprised that you listen to.
Mm,
Oh, I'm a big fan of vocalists from the 30s and the 40s. Um,
Mhm.
and I mention them as often as possible because I know that nobody is actually doing the work to figure out who the fuck Arthur Prysock is, or Johnny Hartman, or even latter day versions of these guys who are doing magical stuff with their voices, like John Lucien, his first record. And that guy was like fundamentally drummed out of the business by like music industry execs who just like, just do the thing. Just do the thing that you did on the other thing. They're like,
Mm.
oh, I want to do all this different stuff, and I mean, just that's not the way the business was working in the 70s. So
yeah.
Billy Eckstein, and I'm a big I'm a big fan of like Barbara Streisand, man. She
Mhm.
was I grew up in the 60s. She was the shit. I mean, the first kind of pop performer to really go out and just emote. So I think that probably the Barbara Streisand tag would be the more not one that people would
Right.
expect to listen to. But I'm
Wonder
interested in
like
what Manuel has to say on this because again, he's still telling me about music I haven't heard. So what should we listen to?
yeah, that's kind of funny because I'm not that big a music listener really. So I don't have much that I can say right now that I listen to like new stuff. Is a lot of like small kind of house-ish stuff that's going on in Berlin from people who play in small clubs and stuff like that. But on the other side, I agree. I tend to listen to some like old jazz singers stuff and some kind of funky groovy stuff and like early hip hop things. But then again, I'm running this little label called Skin and Speech Records with Alex, who has also mastered this Alex Boas album, has played a role there. Um, who's on a very extreme side of, if you want, noise, jazz, industrial stuff, which is also mostly though with like very heavy beats.
Yeah.
So it's often in a drum and bass realm considered it's part of this, which it isn't really. So I'm pretty busy with going through these things as well. So
Yeah.
And honestly, God's honest truth, driving up today, rushing from jujitsu, which is where I was before this, I was listening to the new Boonwell record. Because
Oh, yeah.
right, of course,
yeah, I purposefully don't
that's what
listen.
I did on my morning walk today. Is listening to the Buñuel record,
Yeah,
which is
because I don't
great.
listen to it as a record until it's out as a record, because I want to be able to listen with the ears of the street, So I
Yeah.
record my parts, and then I'll listen to one mix and give either a thumbs up or do this, and then I won't listen to it again until it's out. So it came out on Friday. So to me, it's like a completely new thing, and I'm listening to it, and I'm surprised at how much I enjoy it. So, I mean, I say when I say enjoy it, what I mean is enjoy it irrespective of my contribution. Like if it wasn't me singing, I would still enjoy it.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I hear that. Well, there's a lot of vocal Olympics you're going through on this one too. And all those different layers. And you talk about going to play live. Anything, I mean, you've been doing it for so many years, but is there anything intimidating about transposing this music to a live show that would have you
no,
intimidated or worried?
no, I'm not worried about that. I'm super excited about the prospect of doing it live because I know
Cool.
I can leave the stage clothed. A new experience for me to actually, and I might even be able to wear the same clothes that I wore on stage after I get off the stage, drenched in sweat. Which I mean, again, these projects, and this is not a project. This is a band, right? So
Right.
it gives me an opportunity to do things that I don't usually do, which you never do unless you do this, right? So um, uh, performing it live would it has to be, it has to serve the music and the soul of the music, and I have no idea what that would look like. I got a sense of it from recording the music videos. We made music videos,
Mm.
and so that was the first step to taking it into the fourth dimension of time and making it happen in real time. But I'm really excited about the prospect of playing live. I mean, my dream has always been to, I remember something Dylan said, and Don't Look Back, I think it was. He said, I could sing better than Caruso if I wanted to. I just don't want to. And I was like, yeah, I could actually stand in one spot like Wayne Newton, and I think I could kill it. I think I could make it work, but it's a challenge, and I'm glad to have it now within my grasp.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So now it's
I
something.
mean, it could be a
I know.
miserable failure. I don't know, but the benefit is that at least I'm going to find out. Right?
Yeah,
No, and I think that's just growing too,
Yep.
and not having to, what's the saying? You kind of learn to work smarter, not harder,
Yep.
right? I don't have to have a big scene on stage as long as I'm bringing what I need to bring, right? And I've got the
Quality of emotional truth, which I think is really. I mean, some guy, a friend of mine, who's from the Isle of Crete, actually, and he goes, when it comes to music, why do you give a shit about truth? And he has come to the conclusion that I have an authenticity disorder. Like I like authentic. Otherwise, I feel like I'm wasting my time. He goes, "Why does it? You listen to Lana Del Rey. What does it make a difference that she was put together?" And I was like, "He goes, if you like the song, you like the song." I go, "But part of me liking the song is knowing it's authentic. It's a real expression that's being communicated." And so that is our marching order. I think for both Manuel and I, the idea is to not do bullshit. you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
we have jobs for doing bullshit.
right.
Yeah.
Well, if you're doing this, I mean, you've been doing this, like you were saying, like since the 80s, man. And if you can't find something like genuine to lock onto in that time, how can anybody stomach that long
Shit,
without finding some authenticity in there?
Yeah.
1980. Fucking 44 years. That's madness. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I turned the big 50 this year.
Yeah,
If you want
I'm
Oh,
53,
young man.
so
it.
I would kill to be, I would kill to be 50 again.
Yeah. I'm a baby in the room.
I was talking to some guys the other day and I said something about Mr. Magoo, and they all looked at me like, what? And I said, when were you born? And the guy goes, 2004. I was like, how's that? You're like a
Yeah.
fetus. How are you? How is this even
I
possible?
know.
It's mind blowing. Yeah, well.
No, it kills me that anyone born after 2000, there are people that are like drinking age now.
Yeah. When you
Yeah.
see that, when you go to the service station, and there's you
Yeah.
cannot buy alcohol unless you were born after this date. And it's
After
like,
2003. What?
I was on my third car by then. Yeah.
It's disconcerting, but at the same time, I remember the theory of ruin, which says that buildings should be in decline, should look as good as they did when they were first built, and so that's what I'm kind of trying to cotton to.
Yeah.
I got to be the best 62-year-old I could be,
Yep.
and that's 360 degrees of that. Music, emotional state of mind, everything. So.
Everything. Yeah. Growing as like a family man and those whole things too, as well. Yeah. We're all family guys here too.
We are.
Matt and I are.
How
Yeah.
many? How many kids?
I've got two. I've got a grown son who lives in Kansas City, and then I've got a kid here who's 16. She's still at home, but really good kids. Such great kids. Great artists. Yeah.
My range is from 4 years old to 28.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Ooh. How do you have energy for a 4-year-old, man?
Yeah, man.
That's why I go to the gym every day. That's why
Yeah.
you're rolling.
Exactly. 7 days a week. Exactly.
Wow.
I got a 14-year-old, 15. He just turned 15. Sorry.
All right.
And he's very artistically and musically inclined, and it's really exciting to watch. But like, I also like, come on, man. We just had a conversation this morning. Like, if you really want this, you're gonna have to spend less time like doing video games and watching YouTube and shit. You need to spend more time doing it if you want to do it.
Yeah. A friend of mine was complaining about how his son would spend too much time in video games, and then his video games went nuts. His son became like editor-in-chief at a video gaming magazine, was going to conventions all around the world. He's
nice.
Like, I guess I was wrong on that. The guy has made it a video game.
Well, we kind of had a sit down with him more of like, man, if video games is really, really what you want to do, you know what? Fine. But I don't see that. Help me see that if that's what you really want. And if it's not, if like the art and the music is what you really think that you want for yourself, then man, we will invest as much as we can into that.
But if you want to play Xbox, stop making me buy guitars.
Exactly.
I've been through this as well.
Yeah.
That's exactly it.
Exactly it.
Why am I paying $200 a month for drum lessons? Right, if you're going to practice, minimum.
I bet his thumbs are just like on though. He can just hit those things in perfect rhythm. Well, you'll probably be both of you will probably be our spooky season or Halloween episode too.
Yeah, I guess so.
Coming up in the US here, yeah.
I got some vampire teeth here somewhere on the show. So
I've got a vampire grill up there.
Yeah.
It's like fake diamonds.
Hey, I met a guy who went to Romania to Transylvania, and he went. His goal was to get married, and so he and his wife, his fiance, they went to a church in Transylvania, like in the shadow of the castle Dracula. And
nice.
As they're standing there getting married, some Romanian woman is hurling curses at them. Both hand gestures and words. They don't speak Romanian. They can't figure out what's going on. And apparently one of the laws that was violated, you can't have tattooed women in churches in Romania. So so they start arguing with this woman, and this woman puts a curse on them, right? But she identifies it as such. She's like, I will, curse. And they just kind of laugh at her. They finish the wedding ceremony, the whole bit. He was divorced 3 weeks later.
Oh, Jesus.
Didn't make it out of the honeymoon,
Wow.
But like gypsies will do that stuff in Europe too, though. They'll like just wait outside of cathedrals and throw a curse at you and hope that you will pay them off to lift the curse. Like that's a thing. That's a real scam.
Yeah, it's a good hustle.
I was like gonna laugh at it, but the dude, when he was telling me the story, was completely not laughing.
Just stone faced and
Yeah.
and there I can still see her face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that was
Wow, that's wild.
that's what was interesting about this music, like lyrically, because the birth of Oxbow and its continuation, at least through Thin Black Duke, was very singularly focused on what Wire magazine calls an unspecified disaster. Now, it was specified for me, very specific for me, but it was essentially, I always envision those songs as love songs. But by the time we got to the record that we just finished, that will never be released, the Follow Me Now in Merry Measure, had gotten out of that. Was not a lyrical preoccupation of mine. And what was interesting about Mangene is that when the lyrics were written for it, I was in that period of time, but I had aggressively decided to make the lyrical approach to Mangene completely different, completely different. And so it was great to see those words, to see and hear those words as part of the record, and pleasantly surprised that I could actually do it. That they have the intended emotional weight and heft, and they're not just love songs or even love songs at all.
Yeah.
It was an interesting experiment, and I feel super happy about having pulled it off.
Manuel, what was your biggest drive for creating this? Was it wasn't just having a closet full of beats you had something you needed to do with, was it? I mean, was there a spirit in this for you? An attitude in this album for you or this band before you started?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I've actually started with the synthesizer stuff, doing music at all. Later played a lot in guitar bands, but I really wanted to go back and work with the synthesizers again. I mean, my very first thing was working with my dad's Revox reel-to-reel machine, which I used as a delay. You had two speeds,
Mm-hmm.
So that was the thing. But then speaking about Mangene, is is a lot about making some kind of Eugene may disagree dance music and work with kind of beats stuff, rhythm stuff, and but not in just a straight fall to the floor kind of way, but make it more complex while kind of staying in a simple grid, if you will. And of course, this evolved by putting layer on layer on top, and that's right what I want to do. So it was a very kind of minimal start, minimal means, and then building on those, and yeah, I mean, that was really the thing. Do something different from this guitar kind of noisy world, which is more kind of groovy but deep as well, if you will.
Yeah, and it leaves space, and that's what I like. It definitely leaves space for the vocals, and you've got when you've got the drum tracks in there, and really, and you listen, so it's really only two or three. They're very complicated, but it's so much better than just having layer after layer after layer of sound after sound. You know what I mean? That a lot of people do with electronic music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't mind the whole dance connection either. I mean, if you read my memoir, you know that I used to be a dance instructor. So,
Yeah.
back in the '70s, we go back. I was heavily into disco and was a dance instructor. So I don't funky served its purpose for me for a long time until lyrically it lost me. And that probably had everything to do with me being a teenager at a certain point where I was just like, yeah, baby, 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 baby. This shit's not really working for me anymore. So I was attracted to punk rock hit, and I was like, okay, this is more tonally what I need. But I'm a big dance music fan. I listen to that also, but I don't think it'd be surprising that I'm a dance music fan. So,
Do you ever do anything with Big Old Nasty Get Down? I could see you having some fun with
Yeah,
that. Are you familiar with
absolutely.
no, I
that
don't.
project?
No.
John Heinz is a bassist. He lives out there in California.
Uh,
Uh, and he has this. Well, he was a bass player for George Clinton for a long time and worked with him on a lot of things. But he puts together like this funk super group, all sorts of people. Oh God, what are some of the names?
All
I
over
mean,
the place, man. It's
yeah,
all
and
over the
all over the
place.
map. Everybody from like Stephen Perkins, drumming Jane's Addiction,
yep. Yep.
to Corey from Living Color, and yeah, all sorts of stuff. But it's really good, man.
Okay.
But he'll do a lot of like MP3 bounces or stuff. Like you record a track and send it to him, and they bounce stuff in back. And
Cool. I have not heard that. So yeah. Yeah.
yes, yeah, the big
Yeah.
old nasty get
I felt.
down.
Yeah, I got a chance to meet George Clinton,
That's
um, in Marfa, Texas.
it.
Yeah, it was just completely random, and it was paid for. The trip was paid for by Scion, the car company.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh
I'm sitting there
wow.
like talking to like is he Prince Paul and then George Clinton. I was like, okay. And you know what? You know what I didn't do? This is the greatest thing was talking to both of those guys. I didn't at any point say, "Hey, you guys, I make music too." I didn't say it.
Wow.
Didn't
That takes
I
a
held,
lot. That takes a lot. I know what that's like talking
yeah,
to somebody who's a podcaster. You're
yeah,
like,
yeah,
yes.
yeah. Hey, did you guys go to? There was a big podcast convention in either Maryland or DC this summer. Did you go in for that?
No, we read about it too late. We did hear about it though, and I was like, "That sounds kind of cool. I want to check it." Did you go?
Yeah.
Because I know
Well,
you have a show. Yeah.
yeah. I was not invited. I was there, but not invited. Apparently, it was only the Hot Shot podcast, of which
Oh,
I guess
I
I
see.
really not don't have a Hot Shot podcast.
We are not a hot shot podcast. We've kind of slowed down in the last year or so, and we're wanting to get it back going again. And so this is a
Yeah.
good opportunity for us to actually get excited about doing it. Sometimes, it's just hard to get that
Oh,
energy
yeah. Get
going. And
the rust knocked off your boots.
but I
Right.
think both of us were like, yeah, this is something to look forward to.
Right. Absolutely.
So thank
So,
you for getting us to knock some rust off.
oh, absolutely.
Easy.
Yeah. So what are the plans for taking this live? The record's going to drop on it's November, right? November 15th, was it?
Yep. 50.
November 15th. It's available or going to be available everywhere like streaming platforms and whatnot. Bandcamp, is that probably the best way to go to get it? To get you the most ducats?
You have to ask Manuel. I am divorced,
Mm.
forcibly divorced business side of things. It just
Yeah.
makes me upset usually. So
Yeah, sure. I mean, Bandcamp is certainly the best way to get the vinyl. I highly recommend it because it sounds really great on vinyl, very round, and I'm very happy with that. So you should get that. And yeah, that's the first address to go to, of course.
Is there a timeline for when that would be available on vinyl?
It's November 15th.
Oh, the same day. Okay, cool. All right. And is there a US distribution or do we have to order it from Europe?
There is some sort of a US distribution.
Okay,
I
good.
forgot the name of the
I
company,
thought it
but
was
you should be
red.
able to get it.
Okay. Okay.
Or was
Oh,
I?
that's good.
I thought it was red.
I don't
Distribution.
know. I can check the presser.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not sure.
How do you
I
like? How
will.
do you
I
like
will.
that? We've been punk rock lack of
I
addiction
don't know.
to dance. Neither one of us know.
Is there going to be any like touring coming up or anything like that?
Anything else?
Aggressively, this is the desire.
Yeah.
I mean, right now we figure the best way to make us known rather than playing clubs in front of 4 or 5 people would be to find festivals that will have us. And this is why I asked you guys for who you would see us play with, because when we start
Mm.
to festivals, they're mentioning bands and we're like, do we sound like, does this make sense? So, that's the downside of doing music that is really kind of weirdly unique, is that
Yeah.
trying to figure out the best place, try to figure out where to put ourselves to get the greatest number of ears who might like this,
Mm.
gets to be really difficult, right?
Tomahawk.
Okay, I'll write this down.
Oh, the Tomahawk.
All
Well,
right.
that's Mike Patton's band, right?
Oh,
And
I thought you were talking about a festival. Yeah, yeah.
No,
oh,
Patton, I
oh
know.
yeah, Tomahawk.
I intend when we get like copies or stuff I can send, I intend to send it to him because he's been a great supporter, and he let me relive one of my most fantastic dreams a few
Uh,
months ago when he had me sing "World Up My Ass" by the Circle Jerks live with Bubba.
wow,
That was
oh wow, man.
wow,
Yeah, yeah. You could see, like, the
fantastic.
punk rock kid in me. I was like, "Oh man, this is great." It's actually on YouTube now. My enthusiasm is noticeable.
Oh man, I got to check that
Oh,
out.
yeah,
No,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But Billy from Faith No More, also the Talking Book. Uh, this album reminds me a bit of that.
yeah, I can hear that.
I could see that. I could see Billy.
Well, the
I'm
good thing
sure
is,
with you.
I have no problem asking people. So,
Mhm.
as soon as we have a finished product, I intend to ask Mike, okay, where do you think this would go? Where would this mix
Mhm.
go? We're friends with Jamie Stewart from Juju as well. I could see that as a placement that would make sense, just because
Yeah,
I envision his audience as having very open ears. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
but
yeah.
let me put it this way: if you're not seeing us live, it's not for our lack of trying. We very definitely want to do this, but wanting and it happening are very different things. But and maybe somebody listens to this and they go, "Those idiots, haven't they thought of?" And then they can write us and and then
But there's so many festivals. Like even locally, I can't keep up with festivals anymore.
Oh yeah,
well,
yeah,
what is that? Primavera. That's one that I was like thinking. Primavera. That sounds. And I know we could lean on Andreas Mendes, who does the festivals in Portugal. But yeah, I don't. That's not a bad one. But Portugal is hard to get to. Right.
yeah, yeah. And the double bill is going to be more, intimate. I think, and
Yeah, 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 yeah,
definitely going to be more powerful shows.
yeah. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. All right, man. Anything else you wanted to add, Matt? Anything? Or
I'm
I
just
hate to
really
keep these
excited,
guys
man.
over. Yeah, I am too.
I'm excited for this. I'm looking forward to what's to come, man. It really is different, a new direction, but it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like contrived. Like it's, sometimes when you step out of your, what people know you for, it
Hmm.
feels artificial in a way, and I don't get that vibe.
Right.
If
Right.
that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Hmm.
One of the coolest things about it too for me is that it uh my my voice is different on it
Hmm.
Hmm. Yeah.
because I was a different age when I recorded it. So that it's like the rings on a tree. I can actually hear my voice change year by year. So I don't know that I'm good enough to be able to identify which year which voice goes to, but
Mm.
as a careful listener to the record, I'm like, oh, that's crazy. I can
Hmm.
hear it. So
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
also, I mean, speaking of that, you did record it. I don't know if you remember it. Most of it is actually recorded on very low volume, so very close to the mic, very, very, very low, almost whispering only. So that took me a lot of work to make it actually sound kind of big, but that's part of the quality, which is just so different from many things you've heard from Eugene.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
Yeah.
Is that going to
Absolutely.
be a challenge to like really make that happen live? Really to just
Well, I mean,
I don't,
for
I don't think so.
you ask the audio guy, ask Manuel. I don't think so.
right.
No, I don't think so. I mean,
yeah.
I know that I I mean, I don't know. I mixed maybe some 300 Oxbow shows live, and
Yeah.
so I know. I think I know sort of how to handle this voice, but that's exactly what's so interesting about doing live as well. To just feature this, and
Mm.
I think that's also what makes it different. I mean, if you go back to what we're thinking, what we will do, I'm not sure yet what we're gonna do, but I'm sure And it's going to be very different from, a DJ guy or guy with a large, say, modular synthesizer, turning knobs and stuff, which I very rarely actually like, because there's nothing happening. You don't have to do this live, really. So there will be a mixture of treating voice live, voice doing stuff live, with some tracks that are prepared upfront, of
Okay.
course. But it really, the idea is to bring something which is very live and very direct from us to whoever is listening.
Right on. Well, don't forget about us here in Flyover Country.
No,
A lot of people do. The Jesus Lizard skipped right over the Mississippi River this year.
Missouri is easy to remember. North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska,
Right.
those get easy to forget.
Yeah. The great thing about Missouri is, Highway 70. It cuts right through the middle. You got
Right.
Kansas City, 2 more hours. You got Columbia, 2 more hours. You got St. Louis.
Yep, St. Louis.
All in a row.
Yeah. Yeah, the
Take
first
that.
time I stayed, was in right by the Arch. What is that thing?
Yeah. The
And
Gateway Arch. Huh?
yeah, and get kicked in got one room because we had no money, and then kicked in the door between that and the next room, and then hardcore punk style, and fled the next morning before. But yeah,
Yeah.
great memories in Missouri. So
Right. Yeah.
Yes,
Come by and make more. Come by.
Yeah. Well,
I'd
right,
love to.
all right.
Absolutely.
so is it just you two that are playing for the project,
Oh,
or do you
yeah.
have other members that are joining you, or?
No, it will be just us two. I mean, it
Just
may change at some point if we can afford like a big band, but that's not going to happen in the near future, I'm afraid.
Yeah, what was
oh,
interesting, there was a report recently done, and I mean, I sent it around to some friends from last week about what's going on in the UK, and they're really sucking shit, and part of they have themselves to blame because of Brexit, but I mean, one of their major imports was music, and it's just tanking. The bands can't play, venues are closing. It's a pain in the ass to get into the country. It's a pain in the ass and now they have a bunch of like mystery taxes that they're hitting people with. So it's interesting to watch what had been a thriving, vibrant kind of music thing it's just dying. Yeah, you can
No.
still
Yeah.
Eminem at O2 Arena, but the whole
yeah.
club thing, it's not happening there. And they this is the trickle down from the Brexit thing. So I know it seemed like it was made sense early on, but these are the consequences. So, and for the first time, we noticed too, with the first time in bookings, that the bookings for Buñuel, the money being offered in the States for the first time ever is much greater than the money being offered in Europe.
Yeah,
Interesting.
there's a lot of change happening in all of Europe at this point.
Yeah.
It's not clubs don't have reliable audiences anymore, so you don't know. There might be many people, there might be no one coming up, and then there's much more professionalism now suddenly happening. So sound engineers need more money, and the systems are much better, which is of course great. But this landscape has changed a lot within the last maybe 4 years or so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's, in some ways it's changing well in Ireland. In other ways, it's going terrible. I mean, especially for exports. We talk to and have a lot of friends in Ireland. But yeah, they had a real hard time too, bouncing back from the pandemic. Having people
And
opening
Brexit.
soccer games and in stadiums and not clubs because that was dangerous.
Yeah, right.
Uh, you know. So, but yeah, it's
Perfect. I love it. I
yeah,
love ending these things on a downer.
I do too. Yeah. Wah, wah, wah.
Ah,
No,
take
we don't
that.
have to end it yet. We can find something more positive to talk about.
Yeah, the new Mangene record. That's great. Listen
Yes,
to
There we go. Right
yes.
there.
Awesome. Where'd you get the cover photo? Just a snap
I
or
think
the artwork?
I think this one is actually from California.
Mm.
This page. I'm not totally sure anymore because we had a couple of people taking these sky pictures for us.
Oh yeah.
One of them is Rika Mamoto, used to be bass player in Melt Banana, who took a shot in the Totoro prefecture in Japan. And then we took pictures in California, in Berlin, and there may be more. So yeah, it's kind of been this experiment with the blue skies.
Cool.
The funny thing is, I mean, of course, the temptation is to say that the sky looks the same everywhere, but it really doesn't.
Yeah.
It
No, it
really
doesn't.
doesn't. Montana,
I
the
agree.
sky is very different than it looks in Berlin. So,
Oh yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. Yep. I see it a lot. And usually with weather and sun and everything. Yeah. It changes.
Yep.
Cool. Well, have a happy Halloween if you're going to do that sort of thing. I definitely am.
And check back in with us, man, because I want to hear how all this stuff starts coming together too.
Yeah,
like,
shit.
Yeah, no, for sure. As soon
once
as
the album comes out, because it's an interesting experiment.
Yeah. Well, I think the first stage is like the record, then the videos, which helps people dial in on the record, and then behind the scenes or under the water, like the duck thing. We're paddling furiously to try to get some shows and a live version of it that makes sense. So yeah.
Document some of that stuff. I think it's interesting.
Yeah. You can ask that. What's that guy, Trent Reznor or something like that? You can ask him if he's busy. He might.
We got connections there.
Maybe guys would be great with nails. Yeah.
I wonder. I mean, we have good friends in common, and I mean, he seems like mostly he's doing music for movies these days. So
yeah.
Right.
But
this guy's always got something going on. Talk to
Martin
him.
Atkins.
Martin,
Yeah. Oh gosh.
All right. Well, if you think of anything in the interim until it happens, please let us know.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, we'll send it through Dan.
Yeah.
We'll just keep sending everything to Dan. Dan will send everything to you.
Well, we're
Emo
also
mind.
easy to get a hold of without Dad, if you don't want to bad about bugging.
Right. Yeah, just send us an email. Undeterminedpodcast.com. It's all one word, and you can get us there. Cool. Thank you both so much. Man, it's been an honor. It's been a pleasure.
For sure. I had a good time.
Yeah. I'm going to let you get to your day. And
all right.
I'm going to go carve some pumpkins.
All right. All right, y'all. All right. Later.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.